The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to those of you watching on Facebook, YouTube, and for the first time ever tonight on Twitch.tv. Welcome to LSRTV's continuing coverage of the 2017 RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking, live tonight from New Hampshire Motor Speedway in Loudon, New Hampshire. I am James Pike, joined on this Monday night in the booth by my colleague Austin Coop, and down in our virtual production trailer by the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuzza. Austin, I'll turn to you now to start talking about what we should expect in this race. I think the best way to do this, since we are in the playoffs, is to go ahead and look at the points and say, for Dylan Jones, it's pretty simple. He won last Monday night rather, at Chicagoland and locked himself into the round of 12, so he's safe for the next two races. He doesn't have to worry about anything. But for the other 15 drivers that are in the playoffs, they still have work left to do between this race and the race in Dover next week.
Yeah, and you're looking at drivers in the bottom of that. So you're looking at Daniel Eberhardt, who's in dead last, did not show up for last week's race. And then you've got Sean Casto, who did so well in the regular season. Shane Ewing and Ross Cato. Those are the guys you really got to, it'd be Joseph Tice would be also in that group as well. So Ross Cato's not in there. Joseph Tice, he's also going to be at the very bottom, right next to Daniel Eberhardt. Those two really have their work cut out for them. As far as everybody else, it actually isn't that bad of a grind. But if you are Ross Cato, Dwayne Vincent, or Trevor Rockbelow, it's still going to be some dicey racing. I guess you could go all the way up to Brandon Bowie. They're not really out of the thick of it. The only few drivers that are those drivers at the top. David Washington, Dylan Jones, and David Comstock. I mean, they're within just a few points of each other, and Dylan Jones has that win. But everyone else, I mean, if they have a bad race tonight, they could end up, having to, make something big happen next week at Dover, which is never something you want to, never something you really want to have. So, the playoffs drivers by that the red number or the red banner on their windshield. So, opposed to the black ones that you'll see out there, the Real Sim Racing banners that they have, which are pretty sleek now.
You've got the banners. They'll also have red numbers on our tickers tonight and our scoring books that you'll see across our broadcast. So if you're looking for your 16 playoff contenders, that's how you'll find them. But I think you make a pretty interesting point in that if you look from fourth place in points as they stand, Carl Shedd all the way down to Joseph Tyson 16th, the gap between those two is only 36 points. So there's definitely a lot of wiggle room there in between those 10 plus drivers that are not really separated for the rest of the field. And I think we're going to see a lot tonight that will sort of divvy up everybody into sort of groups and sections. And I think once we get through with this race, we should have a much clearer picture of who will be fighting for their playoff lives next week at Dover.
Yeah, at this moment, it doesn't really currently look like Joseph Tice is out here. They can a double check through the field, and he's not out there. So if he doesn't show up for tonight's race, it's going to be a must-win situation. And to be honest, it's probably going to be a must-win situation for Daniel Eberhardt tonight and for next week as well. So those are the drivers you've got to look for. They've got about a minute and a half left of qualifying. Let's talk about the New Hampshire Motor Speedway here, James. This is a really flat track. A lot of people could say and compare it to a different kind of Darlington, where it's still a lot in the driver's hands. But this place in particular, I mean, it's long straightaways and really flat corners where you've got to weigh the car down.
Some of the absolute lowest banking in the series, anywhere from 2 to 7 degrees in the corners. There are places on the circuit that have straightaways that have more banking than that. So this is going to be all about corner entry and corner exit. It means more here than it does just about anywhere else, because it really depends on how you get on the brakes and how you roll back into the throttle.
And as they are continuing, you know, I think what we'll see a lot of tonight is if we get some long green flag runs, we're actually probably going to see the field spread out quite a bit. But if we get a lot of caution flags, expect turn 1 and turn 3 where they enter the corner to kind of be, you know, the place to start avoiding accidents, or you're going to be a part of it, because these braking for these guys in turn 1 and 3 is going to be a lot different depending on how you enter these corners. I mean, there's going to be a lot of different approaches here to turn 1 and 3 that we're going to be seeing all night long, and I expect it to vary throughout the race with the rubber buildup and just depending on their tire wear as well.
Because we do have a new build here in the sim, and we came with the Season 2 build over the summer when we were here, and now we come back in September. Things will be a little bit different on that front as well. But we have completed qualifying now, and it is time to take you through your LSRTV starting grid for tonight's race of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series at New Hampshire, the 27th of 36 in the 2017 championship. David Washington starts on pole with a time of 29.477 seconds, joined on the outside of the front row by the number 44, Brandon Bowie. Carl Shedd in the 45 will roll off from third this evening, and it will be Andrew Farinage who starts from fourth. David Comstock, one of the top 3 in points, had a good run at Chicago, will begin tonight from fifth. Seth DeMerchant will start to his outside in sixth. Lionel Calisto and Dwayne Vincent make up 7th and 8th on the grid. 9th and 10th belong to Nelson Rivera and Shane Ewan.
Trevor Roppolo, he'll start in the 11th position. Had a solid run last week. Corey Wolf will start to his outside in 12th. Justin Listenby, he'll start in the 13th position with Anthony DeMaro to his outside in the 14th. And you've got Rod Flagg, Nick Silver in the next row, 15th and 16th. Then you've got Jason Cameron Jr. in the 17th place. Eric Stanford, he'll start in 18th. Then you've got 19th place starter Doug Roth, and he'll have his grandson Charlie Silvers of 2.5 years old watching for the first time tonight. Then you've got Randy Yoakum finishing out your top 20.
Starting in 21st will be Sean Boundy, joined by the other Sean of the Full Throttle Cup Series. That would be Sean Casto in the number 46. He'll start 22nd. Ross Cato rolls off tonight from 23rd, and then Gabe Wood starts 24th. 25th and the last car to take time in qualifying was the 58 of Joseph LaPlaca, and then you have Dylan Jones, Tanner Tallarico, Daniel Everhart, and Douglas Wyatt all not taking time. They start 26th through 29th. As we look at the track facts here at this New Hampshire Motor Speedway, not too complicated. 1 mile around, that's why they called it the Magic Mile when it first opened in 1993. 2 to 7 degrees of banking that progressively increases as you go up the track in the corners. 1 degree of banking on the straights, and we'll go for 135 laps, 135 miles for tonight's race distance in this, the second round of 10 in the 2017 RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking Playoffs. Glad to have you along for the ride here on Twitch.tv, on Facebook, and on YouTube as we get set to get the green flag. Pace car pulls off, and David Washington brings them down to the stripe for the first time, and we are underway here for the second race of the season at New Hampshire. And Washington will get a pretty solid jump to start this race. Brandon Bowie should be able to hang along the outside of Carl Shedd. Then you've got Farinage, you've got a good jump on Comstock, got a really good drive off of the corner, and might be able to clear Shedd going into 3 if he drives it down deep enough. He runs it a little bit higher up the track, but I think it should be enough here. With the drive, he'll get on the outside to take away that position. So Shedd will drop a spot or 2. Now as he slides behind David Comstock, he'll go back to 5th, Farinage to 3rd, and Comstock to 4th to close out the first lap.
Look at 3rd place right here. It's getting really close. Comstock is trying to prowl. He's already got Carl Shedd behind. Oh, we got a big crash. Turn number 1. Car in the outside wall. I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and I'm unsure. That looks like it's Joseph LaPlaca, Tanner Tallarico, and perhaps Gabe Wood. He was on the radio. Don't know what happened there, but it was turn 1. Braking issue between drivers.
Trying to look at the replay as we pull it up for you here in just a moment and see what happened. I saw damage on the front end of LaPlaca's car. He checked up because it looks like he got into the rear of Daniel Eberhardt. And then from there, it just all kind of stacked up going into the corner. I think I got to believe that LaPlaca was caught off guard by Tallarico, and then he got loose. Gabe Wood didn't really have anywhere to go. Tallarico got clipped, and that's actually where the 00 got his damage. Tallarico got clipped, went to the outside retaining wall, and Wood was trying to get through the wreck on the outside and just ran straight into Tallarico. So not much to do there, but I think that speaks more to the importance of qualifying well and taking your time than anything else, because all of those drivers either qualified poorly or didn't even take a time in qualifying to start this race. That's why they ended up at the back, and that's why a good chunk of those drivers now have damage very early on in this event.
Yeah, you gotta feel for Daniel Eberhardt. He was actually going in the corner pretty tough too, but I'm not even sure if Joseph LaPlaca would have made the corner on his own. With that amount of speed going to turn one, it was just he just a little bit too late on the brakes, and well, you can see a lot of them are on pit road now, but a lot of damage with those guys, and had some big hits on a few of them. But sadly, a mistake like that could take you out of contention of winning a race. And for Daniel Eberhardt, he's lucky that he didn't have more damage and wasn't, moved side to the side really, and got caught up in more of it. But he'll live to fight another day. Those other guys towards the back, I don't think anyone else playoff-wise was involved. Sean Castro did go to the inside, but everyone else makes it a-okay, and they'll live to fight another day.
Nobody coming down pit road for tires amongst the clean cars out at the front of the field on this go around. Eberhardt really the only one to take advantage of this caution to come down and fix damage. And we don't necessarily think of New Hampshire as an aerodynamic track, but certainly something to watch out for with the rear bumper of that number 90 car, especially since he is in all likelihood in one of the must-win positions over the next 2 rounds to try and make it into the round of 12. He's got to come up with 2 really good finishes at least to have a shot of advancing.
Yeah, at this point, you can almost think if there's 3 positions out as we're getting the 2 or the 1 to go, they'll be getting the green flag actually this time by James. Really quick caution period as there were no lucky dogs, and anyone else who was injured is actually out of the race, it looks like at this point. So we're getting a green flag here, it looks like.
Green flag to come out back once again on lap 6. Pace car pulls in. Washington rolls off. Green flag back out. Maybe a little bit better restart from the inside this time by Farinar's got a good jump down to the inside of Bowie and slides up the track a little bit, and they almost went 3 wide coming out of turn 2, but they'll keep it together as Bowie loses the rear end on corner exit of 2. So Farinars will claim that second spot on his own, and Bowie will go side by side with Carl Shed from P3 as they come out of turn 4.
Yeah, still side by side for these guys. Man, that was, you see so many of these PowerTech, Aegis Motorsports guys as teammates. And I thought last week, when would they become unfriendly? When would they have to start fighting for themselves? And you're seeing it now. That was definitely not a friendly move by the 88, and very early in the race to do that nonetheless. Yeah, as you can see, it's definitely a coveted position to be at the top, and Bowie didn't really lose that much on speed or track position, but it was a little bit more of, that was a little bit of a kind of a racing move there that maybe wasn't so appreciated. But behind them, you're starting to see the battle for the top 5. Lionel Callisto is trying to get around the guys in front of him as he's just outside that top 5. He had a really good finish last week, and so he's going to try and see if he can, hold up and get another finish like that. And then Carl Shed currently holds himself in 5th. He's now 2 positioned, but he also started the inside line, which just at this point in the race, it doesn't seem like it's really there. And those guys start rubbering in the top side. Perhaps that bottom will come in too.
The bottom will come in as drivers get forced to run down there, because you're seeing it very quickly within most of the drivers in the top 10. They've all slid up to that 3rd groove of the racing line and don't really want any part of the bottom at this juncture in the event. But we'll see enough side-by-side racing, and I think with the way this new tire build is played out, that it might take a few laps, but that bottom groove should come in before races end.
Yeah, you're starting to see these guys starting to snake up. If you're going to look for your first battle, it's going to be right outside the top 20, the 7 of Nelson Rivera. Actually, it's just inside. He's fending off the 12 of Ross Cato. He's trying to get that position on the bottom. And then look at Daniel Everhart. He's trying to get his way through the field as well. He's currently in 20th position, up 8 positions, and he's still on the inside. It looks like he'll be clear now, but he's been passing a lot of drivers. Remember, he was just involved in that accident, and he has come down for repairs. So he's passed all those drivers since the restart. We know how good of a drive he can come to the front at a racetrack like this. Though I think it's gonna be a little bit more difficult than most tracks that are up his or in his wheelhouse. But we've seen him do better, do good moves here before. He's gonna make the move on the 12 of Ross Cato here soon, but. A lot of those red banners are really sticking out, and you're seeing a lot of them at the front here, James.
How about your top? I believe that's your top 7. Currently all playoff contenders. Justin Lisenby is the first outside of the playoffs. He runs in the 8th spot. Incidentally, he's also the hardest charger of the race so far, up 5 positions from where he started in 13th. At this stage. One driver heading the wrong direction as I look at the leaderboard is the number 7 of Nelson Rivera. Started 9th, already back 8 spots to 17th within the first 12 laps. So that 7 car not necessarily handling well, though. I've also noticed he's the one guy who is consistently running the bottom of this racetrack, so he might be trying to rubber in that groove early, and I wonder if he thinks his car will handle best down there no matter what, and is just hoping that that plays into his hands as the second half of the race comes in.
Well, I'll definitely tell you that running the bottom is a lot more stable, James, than the top side. The top side is definitely going to be a more risky move. You know, it is definitely the faster line. Surprisingly, it's the fastest right now, as it's becoming a little bit of a sticking situation here in turns 3, but it's definitely the easier route to go. It's not the fastest route, and he could slide up right now in front of Daniel Eberhard if he wanted to, but he's not. He's actually going to stay on the bottom. And I'm unsure what he's trying to do. Rubbing the bottom could help him, but I think right now he's losing quite a bit of track position. But you know, he'll slide in and looks like actually continue to run the bottom. He's not the only one. Looks like there's another driver in front of him who will be doing running the bottom as well. But that's 21 of Jason Cameron Jr. And he looks fairly off pace. I'm not sure what's going on with that number 21 machine, but we'll keep you updated.
A lot of side-by-side battles back in that pack, anywhere from around 14th, 15th, 16th. You got Everhart, who's made his way up there and now definitely is the hardest charger of the race outright. Up 12 positions now, working on the number 24 of Nick Silver, trying to get the 15th position away. And as you come up through this field a little bit more, not too many other battles to talk about as they work their way around the lap car of Joseph LaPlaca. But I'd say you'd have to go back to about, maybe about 6th, 7th, 8th, because that's where you'll find Lionel Kalisto and Dwayne Vincent doing battle. And Vincent's been peeking around the rear quarter panels of the number 97. Hasn't quite found his way around Kalisto yet, but it definitely looks like that Vincent's got the faster car as of this moment, and that might help because Kalisto got sideways off of turn 4, really lost the rear end of that car for a moment, and might not be too long before he has to deal with running in the 7th position.
And you know, watching Dwayne Vincent right here, he could have made a move to the inside in that last one, but he's waited right until this moment to get the corner where he messed up on. Try make him make a move, make him mess up in the same exact corner that he just did. I think that's a really smart move, and we've seen Dwayne race for so many times in the past, and he's still gonna be on the inside. I don't think he's actually gonna get the position right here, just because the bottom side is not there at the moment. But watching him, he's so patient typically, and I know he's been wanting a win for so long, and it's been a long season for him. You know, when you start to think about it, Dwayne Vincent, he has 0 wins on the season, and he's won quite a few times in the Full Throttle Cup Series, and I think I think he's won a total of 18 times in this series, and he hasn't won this season, and he's also a champion of the series, so he's still in it, the championship, by a large margin, or by a good margin at this point. But look at that Bass right there in front of Lionel Kalisto, just shot right in front of him, and he does get that 6th position, so that was really fun to watch right there.
Well, that would be because Kalisto ran up the hill in 3 and 4 the last time by, and that gave Vincent all the room he needed to make the pass very, very easy. So Vincent now up to 6th, and I think you made another important point there regarding the experience that Vincent has. He is a former champion of the Full Throttle Cup Series. I believe that was in 2013, if my memory serves me correctly. And yes, it's been a little while since he's visited Victory Lane. The last time the Lafayette, Louisiana resident got himself to P1 in the Full Throttle Cup Series was last November at Texas. But you have to believe that with a guy who's been around for so long and knows this series so well, that you just kind of have to wait and see, because you can never really count him out. He has the ability to win at so many different tracks on this circuit, and even though he hasn't been the outright fastest driver this year, the body of work and experience that he possesses is so great that it's kind of like Jimmy Johnson in a sense, in that you never really can completely count them out, because every time people try and count him out, it seems like that's exactly when he decides to jump right on it and go do something spectacular.
Yeah, he's got himself a solid top 10 or top 10 average finish right here. But as we continue to talk about him, we'll also shade back to Lionel Callisto, who's trying to fend off Justin Listenby, who's been working on him for the better half of the last couple laps. And you know, with the experience going by him and the 13 and the 31 trying to go by him now, these guys have been fighting really hard to get by him, and now it's starting to trickle back. You've got one car on the inside that's going to be, it looks like the 99 of Anthony Navarro, who's trying to take advantage of the 31 of Justin Listenby, trying to go to battle with one driver trying the bottom and then trying to slot back in. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Anthony Navarro, is he going to make the slide? He's not going to make it, but it looks like he does have the advantage going into 3. Navarro's also somebody we need to talk about. 14th up to 9th, up 5 positions right now. He's looking like a contender today.
Yeah, we're looking for drivers who missed the playoffs but may be the biggest threats to win out of the group of drivers not competing for the championship. Navarro has to be near the top, maybe even at the top of that list. He had a few chances, especially in the spring. I remember when we went to the short tracks, Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond. He had a shot to win at all 3 of those, and it just kind of fell apart one way or another. He was right there at the end at Talladega in the spring and got turned in the tri-oval on the last lap. So things didn't quite pan out his way. He didn't quite get the victory that he needed to make it to the playoffs, but the speed is there, and he has shown the speed in many cases throughout the season to go up and run with the leaders, especially on the short tracks and on the flat tracks. New Hampshire isn't the longest of tracks and definitely qualifies as a flat track, so might not quite be the traditional short track in a sense, but it's definitely one that plays into his wheelhouse more than most circuits that we visit.
Yeah, and speaking of the leaders, David Washington has a 1-second lead over Andrew Barniars, and then he's going to be having a good battle between Brandon Bowie here in the next couple laps. I have to say the 44 has been behind him this whole time, pretty close. But the last couple laps, I've been seeing those lap times get really close together. So those two are the ones I want to I'm going to start watching them here the next couple laps just to see what starts to brew between them. Top 3 is Aegis and PowerTech, and then you've got David Comstock right there behind them, kind of just looming in the distance. So that's top 4, and then you've got top 5 of Carl Shedd, who's also just been sitting there, just 2.5 seconds behind David Washington, just kind of sitting there. And this top 5 is just kind of broken away from the rest of them, and you've got Dwayne Vincent kind of in his own group. But I do want to mention that we did have our first caution in over, I think, 225 laps. I'll have to get the exact number, but it was kind of such a quick caution. I forgot, kind of went around my head, the fact that we had gone so many laps without a caution flag that New Hampshire just kind of felt natural for us to have it. But we still have had a long green flag run at this point, and it will bring up the fact that green flag pit stops will probably come later on here in about 20-30 laps.
I'd say even sooner than that at this rate with the way these drivers are running. Looking at the top 5, though, since you brought it up, not much to be said about the drivers up there. They've been pretty clean and kind of in their own world running ahead of the rest of the field. The only two drivers that are really close to each other are Andrew Freenars and Brandon Bowie running in second and third. So if anything happens between those two, we'll definitely keep you clued in on that. But the main battles here are definitely between Lionel Kalisto versus the pack of about 5 or 6 drivers sitting right behind the 97 car. That 97 car is struggling for speed at the moment, and it looks like there are a decent amount of folks behind him who have a little bit more than he does. So could see the 97 involved in a few more battles here over the next 10 laps.
There's a lot of battling going just outside the top 10, and somebody I still want to take a look at right now is Daniel Eberhardt, who's got himself all the way at the 12th position here, James. He was at the very back of the field whenever the caution came out, and then he, came in for repairs, and gosh, he's really coming, bringing these guys in. Oh goodness, he almost gets Seth the Merchant out of shape right there. Or, I don't know if he got him out of shape, but the Merchant is all sorts of out of shape there in turn number 4. That was really close.
We mentioned Anthony Navarro as a sort of flat track, short track specialist. The other driver that needs to be in line for all of that is definitely Daniel Eberhardt, who was able to win all of those short track races in April. Got it done at both Bristol and Martinsville to secure his place in the playoffs as Seth Merchant gets really loose behind the 90 car. So Eberhardt is another driver who should fare well at a place like this, which in a lot of ways races like an overgrown short track or short track on steroids or whatever sort of idiom you want to use to describe this place. But no denying that Eberhardt's got speed early on, up 18 positions from where he started, now working on Lionel Kalisto trying to get ninth.
And Kalisto's been losing spots, I think, left and right to just a few guys. Not a whole lot. And I think the guys behind Eberhardt himself right now, they're going side by side into one. I think he's faster than most of them as they're looking to go 3 wide behind him. I don't know if it's going to work. Out of turn number 2. So Seth the Merchant will get the best of them, and I think they decided to pull out of that one because that was a very risky situation on lap 33. So I think those drivers knew what predicament they were about to be in and decided that they were gonna make a different decision, especially since the number 9 of Trevor Roppolo, he's in the playoffs. So good decision by him, but they'll have to figure a way around Seth the Merchant because he's kind of becoming a roadblock. He's slower than a lot of these guys, and oh gosh, he's almost going to put the bumper on him right here off turn 2, and the Merchant is not able to keep the speed that these guys are.
Kalisto's been able to run away from this group while the Merchant holds everybody up from about 11th, 12th on back. Quick note for you, we'll let you know that Andrew Freenars was able to clear Brandon Bowie, so the 88 now runs in the 2nd position, about 1.1 seconds behind race leader David Washington. So it will be Freenars' turn to try and go hunt down the 98, but we'll stick with this battle here between Kalisto and the Merchant, and now Nelson Rivera back in the picture. You've got Trevor Roppolo, Daytona winner to start off the year, and the playoff driver in here, Nick Silver, who pointed his way in. He's here as well, as is the 32 of Shane Ewing. So a few playoff contenders in this mix, a few fast drivers in this mix from other series. A very good group of cars to watch here from about 10th on back.
Yeah, I'm enjoying watching these guys. I mean, it's getting pretty tense. Lionel Kalisto, he's lost a lot of time to these guys. I don't know if he made a mistake, but he's now in this 5-some group right here. It's, oh, wow, Seth the Merchant out of shape. He's in the outside wall, and he's going to still somehow keep it together. But, man, he's really, I think, not able to get the grasp on this machine right now. As you're also seeing that number 1, that appears to be Tanner Tallarico. He's very wounded in letting these guys go on the outside, but looks like the 24 of Nick Silver was able to get by that, but Trevor Roppolo still is not able to get around, which that's got to be frustrating when you've got the guy behind you get by you and the guy you're trying to get by this entire time. Roppolo's got to figure something out as Seth the Merchant continues to be really loose off the corners. He's going to watch those guys continue to pull away from him.
Of course, as soon as I say that Andrew Freenars managed to get around Brandon Bowie, well, guess what? Bowie got back around Freenars to get second, and then, to make matters worse for the driver of the 88, he got very loose coming out of turn 2, and that allowed David Comstock to get around him. So Freenars actually runs in the 4th position at the moment. Carl Shedd still sitting in 5th, but a few shuffles of the positions up towards the top of the field, and now those three drivers are running pretty close together and have allowed David Washington to gap all of them a little bit more. That lead in the number 98 machine is now up to just under 1.6 seconds.
I'll definitely tell you that with these drivers in the top 5, you'll hardly see them make any mistakes. But if they're going to make a mistake at a particular track, I think this is one that I would definitely say, yeah, you're probably going to make a mistake or two during the duration of the race, unless you just absolutely are in your zone. Just because of the matter of it's so flat, you can get on the gas just a hair too early, and you could just get the car just a little bit out of whack. And definitely, as a driver or just watching in general, you can just see that happen and take place. And you're also seeing Carl Shed dive the car in deeper just a little bit on the 88 of Andrew Farniards, maybe trying to force him to make another mistake. And that's also something here at this track, is you can play a lot of mind games with other drivers by, you know, just kind of showing the nose, or just trying to doing something a little bit different that might, if they're looking in the rearview mirror and they see you, they may react to it, and you may be able to get around in that way, because it's so difficult to pass at this place. And right now you're starting to see Brandon Bowie really pull away from those guys. I mean, he was close there a couple laps ago, but he's starting to pull away, and I think David Comsto's going to try and go get him. But look at the battle behind him. 44 is going to try or 45 is going to try to go to the inside. That's going to be Carl Shed. He's going to try and go for the pass, and looks like maybe Farniards is going to give him the position, and that is correct. So that's going to move the top 5 just a little bit.
Handle maybe going away on the number 88 machine at this point. He's dropped 3 or 4 positions in almost as many laps, and now is at the tail end of the top 5. Next man on the list would be Dwayne Vincent, who very quietly has driven his way up to the back of this group, and now isn't too far behind, only about 7 or 8 car lengths back of the number 88 machine. So Vincent may be in possession of a pretty strong long run car. We'll have to see how that plays out if we get a few more green flag runs, but as it stands, this is still David Washington's race. Bowie has closed the gap a few tenths of the last few laps. It's now down to 1.2 seconds, but Washington still in command of this. And then a new battle pack has developed from 8th to, I believe, 11th, because Daniel Everhart's managed to get that car really loose, as he just did again coming out of turn 2. And that has brought Justin Lisenby, Nelson Rivera, and Nick Silver all together with the 90 car to create a new group of cars battling it out for position ahead of everybody else. Goodness gracious, Everhart's losing the handle all over the place because he nearly lost it on turn 4 again.
Oh, he's definitely, I think, pushed the car to the limit and maybe a little bit more. There's going to be contact right there between the 90, and he somehow does not crash it right there. And wow, that was, I saw that coming, but I didn't think he would actually get into him. And that was the 24 of Nick Silver, who just barely got into him. And I think Nick Silver, I don't think he meant to do it, but definitely did it. And all the while, we have one car coming down pit road. That's Anthony DeBarro. While there's all the action on the track, but pit stops may be getting the start on lap 45. And looks like the 90 of Eberhart, he's still doing battle with the 7 right off there, number 2.
Not necessarily convinced that Eberhart had already lost the rear end of that car ever so slightly before Silver got into him. But nonetheless, the rear end stepped out from the number 90 machine. Eberhart had to gather it up, and by the time he did, Nick Silver was already gone and away, and now Nelson Rivera will get the chance to clear him too. So Eberhart will slide back into 10th, and then behind all of that, Lionel Callisto's managed to stabilize at 11th after dropping much like a stone through the first half of the green flag run. And same can be said for Seth DeMerchant in the number 57 machine. He's found his little home and hobbit in 12th position on this racetrack, ahead of Shane Ewing, Corey Wolf. Decent battles back in 15th, 16th, 17th. You've got Sean Castile, Trevor Rapolo, and Doug Roth side by side, and then Ross Cato also in that bunch as well.
You know, with the pit stop happening with the number 99 of Anthony Navarro, I thought I would expect another driver or two at least to drop in, but looks like no one else, at least that I'm seeing, has come down to come pit. And if anyone was to come pit, I'd say Daniel Eberhardt would be the next guy to come in to pit because of what he's been going through right now. But it looks like maybe the 42 of David Comstock and Carl Shedd, they're doing battle right here as well. They're also catching some of these guys either coming off or some lap traffic as well. But this battle right here has definitely heated up with the 42 and the 45.
Those two starting to go at it as Bowie continues to close the gap on Washington. 44 has definitely been quicker than the 98 the last 10 circuits by. He's had the lead that Washington once held over the field. It's now down to 0.8 of a second. And then you've got Comstock and Shedd, who are battling not too far behind Bowie. Gap has kind of separated themselves a little bit from Shedd, who now is about 7 or 8 car lengths, or rather Farinars, not Shedd. So, botched that up, but Farinar's now back about a second and change behind Shedd, and then it's about another second back to Dwayne Vincent. But I get the sense that these numbers will all be a little bit moot here in a few laps because we're beginning to enter the window for green flag pit stops.
Yeah, another driver to note that isn't actually in attendance in the race is Ashton Crowder, who had such a good race last week. I do not see him out there on the field, and he did not grid, and so he'll be another driver that's going to be having to dig a hole. So any of these drivers who are out here and had just slightly a bad race, or maybe actually was actually involved in some sort of pit road issue or anything like that, this is the race that you want to do good at, because there are a couple drivers that are already in a pit. You know, if you're in the middle of that window, like if you're a Ross Cato, Shane Ewing, Sean Casto, this is the race you just need to finish no matter what. So definitely really thinking about that here with these guys, as I think we're maybe going to start getting some pits. I see a number 43 and a number 9 on the radio here. Don't know if they're coming to pit this time or whether they're just talking about some on-track stuff. Yeah, that's what they're talking about, but maybe they'll be coming in soon. We're kind of expecting it soon, aren't we, James?
We're expecting that soon. Meanwhile, maybe not a surprise to expect that David Comstock and Carl Shedd are battling once again for position. 45 underneath the 40 true, trying to grab the third spot away. Won't quite get it off of the corner. Comstock gets a good run out of turn 4, but he'll let the 45 go. So Shedd now up to third right before green flag pit stops.
Yeah, as he keeps circuiting, I'm just wondering, as the guy behind the wheel, whether it's worth it to come down for those tires. To Anthony Navarro, it was, but I don't think to anybody else it was, just because maybe they are going to feel that the lap times aren't really falling off that much. And I think that's maybe a wise decision, because we haven't had a caution. Anthony Navarro may have made the wrong decision, but I know for him, he's trying to only go for wins, because the qualifying times were all the way down in the 29 fours, 25 or 29 fives, and then the race pace right now is in the upper 30s, mid 31s. So it's not really that much off, and if you come down pit road, it's only going to take a few laps to get halfway there. So these guys are, I think, doing the fuel run, not the tire run, and I think we're going to see that might bite the 99 in the rear as the run goes on.
I think with as far back as he started in this field, took the green from 14. You really want to have a shot at winning, and you want to have the track position all to yourself. It was a pit move like the one Navarro made to come in and short pit everybody else that I don't know if it was the only option, but probably was the best option in this case. So we'll see what he can pull off here on this next green flag run. And I think to watch the fall off between his tires and the tires of everybody else in the field will be another key component of whether or not that strategy actually has some use to it. But up at the front of the field, we have to take a look at this battle, because all of a sudden Washington's gap of a second plus is down to just about nothing, and Brandon Bowie's getting a little bit of help from Anthony Navarro, of all people, who we just talked about. But the 44 is there, ready to pounce if Washington makes a mistake to take the race lead.
And it was almost there, James. He almost had the opportunity, but actually the 99, I feel that he was almost kind of in the way. If the 44 wanted to dive down to the bottom at turn number 2 last lap, he may have been able to do that, but that was not even an option. That space was occupied. So the 44 is going to have to try and find a way, if he wants to right now, to get down to the bottom or get some real big momentum out of these corners. But don't forget about Carl Shedd. He's right there too. He's only 5/10 behind it, and a good amount of car lengths away, and that would be David Comstock. He's only about another 10-13 car lengths behind, so you can't count him out if these guys start to get physical. And there it is, 98 hits a bump from the 44, and he's going to go to the inside, moves his teammate out of the way, and we have a new leader, 44, Brandon Bowie.
Brandon Bowie to the front. Carl Shedd nearly took it 3 wide and put Bowie in the middle of an Aegis sandwich, but we have a new race leader, and he's not from Aegis Motorsports. It's Brandon Bowie, who jumps to the lead on lap 58 and completes the first lead change of this race. I believe it, that he gets some help from David Washington. He gets turned down to the inside, and they nearly wreck. Nearly wreck.
And look at the 42, 3 wide for the lead. He took advantage of it. Look at that.
He split all of them. They're trying to kill each other. Somehow they haven't wrecked. I don't know how. I really, honest to goodness, don't know how, because they got together 2, 3, 4 times, I think, within that last lap, and somehow David Comstock managed to jump ahead of everybody.
It's not over yet. You keep watching it right here. Oh, this is getting good, James.
My goodness. My goodness. Incredible stuff here amongst the top drivers, but what you need to know is that we got another lead change in as many laps, and David Comstock now up in front of this deal.
Yeah, he played it perfectly. We'll definitely have to, that's a highlight reel for the 42. Look at the inside. Looks like somebody doesn't really care about all the shenanigans that are going on. That's Carl Shedd. He wants to get by both of them, maybe even get between them. He doesn't want them to wreck in front of him. I know it's going to be a heated conversation after this race is over, but I will say, after this is all over, it's some very talented driving from all three of these drivers, but how they were able to handle their cars, and that could have been a lot worse than it was. And a huge round of applause for both those guys, despite having a heated battle right there. They were really sideways at multiple times, and Washington did give him the space that he needed off of to gather it back up. So it's not like I don't feel like he meant to.
I agree. I think that was more of a racing thing than anything else, but also a byproduct of the way these tires have sort of fallen off, and the way the tire fall off has varied for Bowie and Shedd and Washington and Comstock and everybody, and especially Bowie and Washington. You saw it over the course of this green flag run. Washington's lost the tires as this run has gone on. Bowie's done a much better job of managing that and has had the speed, and you're really starting to see it now. Washington's fallen off quick. He's now a 2nd and 3/10 behind the race lead after he had a 1.6 second lead only some 30 laps ago. So really struggling for grip now. Wouldn't surprise me to see the 98 down pit road too soon.
Yeah, I think this will be definitely where it's will start for some of these guys, and you'll never know. Maybe some guys will try and give it the long haul and see if they can really Iron Man, get every drop they can out of the fuel cells of these cars. That's what I'll be seeing. It looks like the 44 is going to try to go to the inside right here, try and get 2nd position right here while he still can. And these battles, you'll say, it's coming to come to the pits. Why would you really, go for that position? But if you can get in front of a driver and then start pulling away, it's really going to matter. It's really going to matter whenever they start coming in the pits. And look how close these two are going on the straightaways. I mean, the 45 of Carl Shedd, he was really close to him on the straightaway, almost turned him, but I think he just knew exactly where he needed to be, trying to get as much momentum down in the turn number 1 and 2. He wants to pass him right now, and that is very clear right now.
Very clear that you got some racy guys up in the top 5, and I wonder now that Shedd has seen everything that just happened a few laps ago, if he started to press the button to start really driving that 45 car hard towards the end of this green flag run, and he's really starting to put the pressure on Brandon Bowie now. All the while, they've managed to close the gap on Comstock a little bit, now down to just 0.6 of a second and change, but they have halved the gap that Comstock had some 5 laps ago.
Yeah, you got to remember that the 42 kind of inherited that lead. I don't think he was faster than these guys. It looks like we do have the 88 coming down pit road there. But the 42 of Comstock, he kind of inherited that lead based on that battle. And that may be a blessing in disguise for him as they continue to battle for second. Pit road update. Randy Oakham, he's been black flagged for driving through too many pit stalls on entries. So 2 races back-to-back, we're seeing penalties on pit road.
Starting to see penalties build up. Wonder if anybody amongst the playoff drivers will get hit with them. We saw it in Chicago in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup race a few weeks ago as we get our answers as to who will come in first amongst the leaders. David Washington, the first to come down pit road, and with him, I believe, is the number 7 of Nelson Rivera.
Not surprised the 98 comes in early just because of the fact that his deal was going a little bit, his car was going a lot quicker than most of the other guys, so he is going to come down pit road for the time being, and then all these other guys as well, they are going to stay out, and we'll just see who comes in when they come in. And looks like the 24 of Nick Silver, the 13 of Dwayne Vincent, the 42, your leader, he's coming in as well, the 45 of Carl Shedd. I think this is when everyone starts to come in to pit road here, James.
It makes you wonder if this is going to trigger everybody else coming down. We'll see if Bowie decides to make a move for pit road now, running a little bit lower on the racetrack, and I think that's all the indication you need. Brandon Bowie will indeed be the next driver to come down pit road amongst our leaders on lap 69, getting ready to come across the stripe and work lap 70 of 135.
Yeah, it looks like Justin Listenby, he'll be the one to inherit that lead, but he's down pit road as well, so that should be everyone out there that has come down to make their stops. And actually looks like the 31 he's actually in his box. They're going to do service, so I thought he was actually out of his box, but that's going to cycle just about everyone through that was on the lead lap. So I think that'll just about do it, and then we'll be able to cycle and see where everyone will end up after this pit stop, see who executed pit road the best.
And see just what kind of advantage Anthony DeBarro got by short pitting, because he should, I believe, inherit the race lead once scoring cycles through and Justin Lisenby gets knocked out of the lead, as does Corey Wolf, who I think is the other driver yet to come down pit road. And there it is. DeBarro now scored at the top of the leaderboard, so he'll have the lead for a little bit here before he has to come down pit road for tires again.
The big 11-second gap though between him and David Comstock. I was not expecting such a big lead from that number 99, but he does have it. So if between now and the time that they catch him, that's a yellow flag. He's going to have a real big part. The only thing is he will have to come down pit road, and if anyone wants to stay out and keep the tires they've got, well, he will kind of be in a kind of a particular situation. But David Comstock, he is the driver to come out first out of everybody else out of pit road, so not to be expected, but definitely a really good showing. And David Washington came in before him, so I don't expect David Washington to catch him unless the 42 has issues, which he is actually right now. He's trying to navigate through this lot traffic, which is on the outside. It is giving him some trouble right now.
Well, let's take a bit of a broader view to everything and see just what kind of lead Anthony DeBarro has built up by short pitting by taking a look at our full field rundown at tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break, which is brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, the Connors Tour, USAC, Blancpain GT, VLN Endurance, and more. The lead for Anthony DeBarro as we alert lap 74 of 135 is currently 9.9 seconds. David Comstock runs in second, trying to run down the 99. David Washington is in the third spot at the moment, and then Andrew Flynn runs in fourth. Carl Shedd rounds out your top 5 as they run. He's followed by Brandon Bowie, who is in 6th. Nelson Rivera, who has climbed back up to the field to 7th. Daniel Everhart started 28th, currently runs in the 8th position. Dwayne Vincent and Nick Silver round out your top 10.
The 11th position is Lionel Callisto, and you've got Steph Burchant, who's still in 12th position. And you've got Sean Castle in 13th, Justin Lisenby, he's in 14th. The top 15 would be Shane Ewing. Then you've got Trevor Roppolo 16th, Ross Cato and Corey Wolf will be 17th and 18th. And Doug Roth, he is in the 19th position, right where he started. And then Eric Stanford, he's going to be in the 20th position.
Stanford, the last car on the lead lap. Sean Boundy, the first one off the lead lap, 1 lap down in 21st. Of the 2 drivers 1 lap down in this race are Rod Flagg and Jason Cameron Jr. They run 22nd and 23rd, respectively. Tanner Tallarico got cut up on that early caution to start the race off. Currently runs 6 laps down in 24th. Randy Yoakum is in 25th, 10 laps down. The 26 of Dylan Jones is 17 laps down. The 27 of Douglas Wyatt, 47 laps down. He's joined by Joseph LaPlaca and Gabe Wood. That's the 3 drivers that are currently out of the event. And that will conclude your iRacing Midway race break for this Monday evening. And if you're interested in more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of exclusive promo codes to get yourself on the sim with a 1-year membership for half the price. Once again, that's iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. So we rejoin the battle here at the front of the field, and Devaro's out in front, though that lead is dwindling. The real battle on track is for the 2nd position, because David Comstock has company, and it comes in the form of the number 98 of David Washington.
And I just feel that he's been there the whole time, and that was the closest he'd been that entire race, or that entire battle. He's been absolutely just on the doorstep, waiting for a mistake, and I think David Washington won't be as aggressive with the 42 just because of the fact that Comstock doesn't race anybody else really aggressively. I think the way he passed that lap car just kind of showed it. Even though it was a lap car, he didn't really go too hard. But as you're seeing right now, he's actually going to let him by right here. That was definitely what that was. The 42 just let him by right there, and Washington's going to wave the hand out the window and give a big thanks to him. So what a turn of events for that 2nd place battle. But 98 now will take over that position. He'll go try and hunt down Anthony Navarro.
He'll try. He'll see.
Yeah, he'll definitely try there, James. And then the battle behind them. Look at looks like Henry Farnar and Carl Shedd as well. They're doing battle out of turn number 2, and looks like Carl Shedd, he's trying to get the good side of the battle right now by going to the bottom side. But right now, still not the case where the bottom's where you want to go. I think he's going to have to take the David Washington approach, where he's just going to have to really get some momentum or really get the respect of the driver and to just let him by, because what Comstock did was definitely not something you see for a battle that could possibly be the lead. So as we continue going on lap 82, Anthony Navarro's lead, 6 seconds over David Washington. Still a very sizable lead here, but it's still going to be dwindling here as we continue forward. 83 laps right now as Anthony Navarro, he'll cross the start-finish line. These guys are getting pretty spread out. Looks like the next battle on track 4 position. Looks like it's actually maybe going to be for the top 15 right here. Look at the 9 and 31 and Justin Lisenby. They're going for battle. Doesn't matter where you are in the race field. You want to try and get every position possible. And for Justin, or from Trevor Roppolo, that's definitely the case right now. Trying to get every point possible to make it to the next phase of the playoffs. And he's plagued by some slow drivers in front of him. He's been fast all day, just hasn't been able to have the speed for it. The 31 actually just hit the wall. That's Justin Lisenby trying to keep his position, but it looks like the 9, he's going to be able to slide in here in turn number 4 if he can just clear him, and he does. He's going to get right in front of him, but the old crossover move doesn't work out for the 31 to give that position to the number 9. of Trevor Roppolo. It looks like Sean Casto has had a very quiet day. Started in 22nd. He's right in front of him, and he started, 22nd. I just said that, and he's gotten all the way to 14th. So a really hard-fought day for him. And I feel like he knows he can get a little bit more if he feels like, if he wants to. But it's been a long green flag run at this point, and it looks like we're gonna have Siska. Are you joining us here? Maybe not.
Mute my microphone. Yeah, there we go. James, it looks like he's feeling a little under the weather tonight, so I'll take over for him in the interim. But in the meantime, we're still watching this battle right now between Trevor Roppolo, Justin Lisenby continuing to go on. And Lisenby and Roppolo, you can tell both of them have been a little bit the worst tonight, because you can see the right side of both cars scuffed up as we hop on board. And that's what intense battling can do. Another great battle going on actually right now is between the 44 and the 88. Once we see, it looks like Lisenby going to try for something there. Not going to happen though, so we'll flash over to Bowie v. Freenaz. And in around, this is a 3-car battle actually, because throw Carl Shed in there, so it's the 2 Aegis drivers and then Bowie trailing them. So we've seen what happens in this scenario before, Austin. It's be a case of can Bowie can lightning strike twice for the driver of the 44.
And I think it's been a battle of Bowie versus whoever at this stage in the race. I mean, he's been very close to a lot of drivers, and with the physical contact that happened earlier multiple times between himself and David Washington, it wasn't too much, but I do think at that point it did kind of slow the momentum down for both drivers, and did allow the David Comstock to inherit that lead. But the one who won out of that one was David Washington, and Bowie was faster at the time, but now I think he's kind of stuck, and he's actually lost more positions right now. This is the lowest I think he's been all race at 6th place, and I think he's going to be wanting more right now. And having Farnyards get by him, and having Carl Shed be still in front of him, and then David Comstock, he also got in front of him because of that incident. You've got to be thinking, if you're the 44, you want to get all this power, you want to get all this spots back.
Yeah, you do, and we got James back now. He was able to cough up that lung he was trying to cough up. So now Bowie actually going to look to the inside of the 88, and he's going to send the car in there. He'll have a nose down there, James, and side by side goes the 44 and the 88. 44 times 2 is 88, and I think he's hoping that isn't the case in terms of horsepower, because they're even up as they come out of 2.
Battling here on track has been so good that it literally did take my breath away for a few minutes there, but happy to report that with one lung I am back at it and back alive once again here to see this action. And it looks like Farinas and the 44 just won't let each other go at all. They're just stuck side by side, and the real beneficiary of this is going to end up being Carl Shed and David Comstock, who both should be able to get away from these two if they stick side by side like this.
Yeah, and they've been really consistent. I think that's the thing I've seen really a lot with Carl Shed and David Comstock. They've been so consistent. They really haven't had to battle too many people, and when they do, they either are very quick about the pass, or they're very quick about letting the pass happen. Which is definitely what happened to the 42. The only thing about that is Carl Shed appears to be a little bit faster than David Comstock right now. Comstock's just had it's like an A- car at this moment, where David Washington's had an A+. I think this entire time, as he has the lead, right now, and as I think the 99 pitted a lap or 2 ago. So it just kind of happened so quick that I think we just missed it in the mystery of all that's been going on. But Bowie's going to get that position from Andrew Farnyards right here in 1, and I think that was one we've been waiting to happen for quite a while. And what that's been able to do, that's been able to get Carl Shed and David Comstock to kind of space themselves out. So if Carl Shed wants to try and go for that position, he'll go for it, and as soon as I say it, he's going to go to the inside, and he's going to try and take it. He got really close to the door of the 42, and I don't know if he's going to be able to get the pass done, but he's definitely showing the inside right now.
So let's go ahead and clarify what you meant there, that Shed and Comstock have definitely spaced themselves out by about a car length and a half, maybe 2, over Bowie and Farinas. But Shed and Comstock, at least between each other, have not spaced themselves out at all, because they were all over each other that last lap, and I have a feeling Shed might well try again to get around the 42 machine within the next 3, 4, 5 laps, though he hasn't had the best lap here this last time around, working lap 93, and has actually fallen back off of Comstock. So nice little commentator's curse there for you, as Brandon Bowie now comes right back up on the rear bumper of the 45 machine. In the meantime, David Washington is looking back out his rearview mirror and loving this, especially since we saw how poorly his car handled towards the end of the run. He definitely would love to see these guys battling amongst one another, because the more they battle, the more his gap over everybody else will increase, and the better chance he should have to hang on, even if the tires do fall off a little bit at the end of this race, like I suspect they will.
And this is a completely different David Washington than we saw last week. Washington seemed to be really struggling last week at Chicagoland, and we come to New Hampshire where I feel like it's really a driver's track, and he's absolutely doing a really good job. He's led the most laps so far right now, and this race is actually coming to a close, awfully close. I mean, we're almost lap 100 already, James. We've had one caution, commentator Jinx, I hope I don't do it again, but right now, he's still making that lead larger. It's not going down anytime soon. I'd say that they may be able to make it the rest of the way to the end of the race on the fuel. The tires are going to be absolutely atrocious. Don't get me wrong on that, but they may be able to make it to the end on fuel, permitting that it stays green. And man, that's going to be such a good feeling knowing that you're still pulling away from all your competition as the number 98 right now.
Washington crosses the stripe there. 39 laps to go now. Fuel should not be an issue, I think, for any of these drivers. The question will be the tire management, as it seems to always be here in the sim at this track, and how well you play that off. So we'll see how that plays out. But in the meantime, it makes me wonder, especially if you're into these drivers, the best way to look at all this sort of data is to go have a little look at a product that some of our friends have made that's pretty cool. You might have heard of it, and they happen to be a proud sponsor of our coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series, and that is Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim, behind the wheel, on the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself a basic download for free, or get the pro version today at joel-real-timing.com. And if you're any of these drivers who've been practicing this race midweek, and you've been running on these relatively long green flag runs, which are a bit uncharacteristic here at New Hampshire, then you may have some data on what the fuel runs look like, on what the tire management looks like, and any decent sized notebook that you have for a situation like this would definitely help in a case like this, Mr. Coop.
Yeah, most definitely. I did a couple runs this week, and I was definitely a little bit behind the 8-ball when I started. So definitely, it could definitely be a good tool for any driver out there, from amateur to pro. So I will go back to a little bit of on track though, because despite maybe what they've got in the notebook, I don't think I expect David Washington to start losing his lead to David Comstock so quickly. He went from 1 second to half a second to under half a second just in those few laps while we were talking about JRT. So as the 42 starting to reel him in, the two behind him are doing battle.
Big battles up here on track. And a big gap here for David Washington, starting to come down a little bit. David Comstock now has it down to 0.4 of a second. And then you've got Shed and Bowie who are side by side again. How many times has that happened tonight? They'll go door to door here into turn one, and I just don't feel like either of them have the ability to separate from one another.
Oh, the 44 really slew it in there, and it was looking like the 44 would come up the track and maybe hit somebody, but man, right now it looks like they're just absolutely even. That bottom side, we talked about the top side with rubbering in, that bottom side is not looking so bad, and the only thing you've got to worry about is just overdriving that bottom. If you overdrive it just a little bit, man, that's gonna be really close for those guys. And you can see that the 44 has the advantage right now. He's got the nose in front, but He just cannot clear him quite yet. Put the slide job on him right there, right in the turn 1 and 2. And the 44 immediately will start holding up the 45 right there, and he's going to be able to pull away. What a move. Almost didn't work right, but that's just how a slide job is supposed to work. Just barely worked out.
A little bit of dirt tracking there from Brandon Bowie, who is now stringing together one of his best runs of the 2017 season. Been very, very quick all night at New Hampshire. The problem, though, is that we're getting down to it. We've got, I believe, 32 laps to go right now, and he's got 1.1 seconds to make up between David Washington and David Comstock, who run first and second. And we've talked a little bit about how that lead for Washington is coming down as the laps are winding down. And guess who's there on the rear bumper of the number 98 now for the race lead? The number 42, David Comstock, trying to go grab his first win of these 2017 playoffs.
The only thing I didn't like about the 42 letting the 98 by was if they came back. Oh gosh, look at the 42. Almost went into the inside wall. Very close call for the 42. But as I was saying, and I don't know how he didn't wreck there, but as I was saying, if the 42 was able to start reeling the 98 back in, would he do the same for him? And the answer is absolutely no. Because of the fact that it's going to be such a more crucial part in this race, the 42 is really going to have to work a lot harder for the 98 on the 98 to get by him. And you know, I've just got to believe that to let him by as much as he did. Man, I just think that that was a really courteous move by the 42. But now it might hurt him, I think, right now, because he let him off so easy. But we'll see how it plays out for him. He is right there.
Oh, Washington got really, really loose on the exit of turn 4 that last time by, and that opened up the door for David Comstock to go underneath him, and he got really loose on the center of corner exit there once again, and this might be David Comstock's moment to go grab the race lead, and it might be big for Bowie too, because he chopped off 2/10 of the lead that last time by, but the slide job comes from Comstock. Will he make it stick this time by? Not quite. They'll be side by side. Comstock will be scored the leader, so it does count as a lead change here with just under 30 laps to go, but he hasn't cleared Washington yet. Can he do it here through 1 and 2? Yes, now he's got a new leader, David Comstock.
Yeah, we saw that coming whenever he just absolutely split that lead in half, but I don't think the 98's going to give up quite yet. I think he may know right now that he cannot get it by raw speed right now, but you can see he's really trying. You saw the car get really loose off turn number 4, and you've also got to think about Brandon Bowie. Is he going to be a factor in all this? He's also taking that interval between himself and the 98 down quite a bit, and that top 3, it's throw a small little blanket under him, and you've got 5/10, and so they're all pretty close together.
If I'm Bowie, I am incredibly hungry for this, and I know the way David Washington's car has slipped up in the last 5 laps, so I think if you're the 44, it is imperative that you get past Washington as soon as you can, because if you don't, that will only hold you up, and that will mean you have to gain that much more ground to get back to Comstock and run for the race lead. He's really, really trying it, though, driving really, really deep underneath Washington. Comstock is getting away a little bit, so the question will be, for how long can Washington hold up Bowie?
But the way Bowie's driving, he's driving, I think, just about as crazy as, both the 98 and the 44 are driving absolutely crazy, knowing that they've got cars that are really, really loose. And, I think that, I think Bowie, if he can at least get it executed in the next few laps, he can maybe go after the 42, but that lead isn't going far away with the 42. Our leader is not pulling away that much. And I think just because of the fact that it's so much later in the run, and we might see a battle for that lead. The 98 on the bottom right there maybe chose to do a little bit of a swipe, but this battle for the lead is not over. And I just have to believe that, man, these guys, as close as they are, if anything happens, we might see what happened earlier again.
How crazy would that be for that to repeat itself and everybody get into each other's doors with 5 laps to go, as Washington very nearly just did coming out of turn 2 that last time by. Almost got into the 42 of David Comstock. So I think here's our first real tangible example of playoff implications, as our producer loves to say, really ramping up the pressure. And you saw it there because Washington just lost the rear end out of turn 4. This is about as hard as I've seen Dave drive all season long, and you can tell he's really, really going for it.
But he's not, I don't think he's really losing that much time, though. I mean, he's still 3/10 off. He just scraped the wall just a little bit, so that might actually do a lot more damage than on time than it is on his car. But right here, Brandon Bowie, he's gonna, if Brandon Bowie wants to win the race, he's got to pass him right here and right now. There's gonna be about 20 laps here to go here soon. Man, this is getting really, really close between these guys, and I've got to believe that David Washington only has that much left in his tires.
Who blinks first? Might be the biggest question amongst not only Washington, but all of the top 3. Because Comstock is definitely starting to get away now. That lead is up to half a second. And, oh, by the way, in case you were wondering, Carl Shedd has now driven his way back up to the rear bumper of Bowie and Washington, and he is basically right there near these two. So if they decide to do anything, and then Bowie gets into Washington and sends him sideways coming into turn 1, and well, that I think pretty much solves the question of how Bowie, or rather how long Bowie was willing to wait. Just ran out of patience there and got into Washington and moved him out of the way, and now it's clear sailing for Bowie. He now has, I believe, 20 laps when they cross the stripe to chase down David Comstock for the race lead.
A replay of what just happened coming up shortly. You saw it there, though. I mean, that was about as much of I mean, it was racing, definitely, but man, you can't not think about what happened earlier between those two guys because of what happened. We'll definitely have to take more looks at it as well, and the replay shows a lot too, but didn't take him out, and I think a skilled driver is Washington. He's able to get that car, but wow, that's championship implications. That's pretty. That's gonna make the pot boil a little hotter tonight.
That's playoff racing. That's 2 separate teams competing for team's title, 2 separate drivers trying to go get it done on their own, and just one of those heat of the moment type things. And Bowie now has made his point, believes he had the faster car. Now that he's got the track position, can he live up to the billing that he put upon himself in that move, or will the real winner in all of this be Carl Shedd, who has managed to hang on the rear bumper of the 44 and may well end up getting past both of Washington and Bowie as they've raced each other so hard that they've run the tires off both their cars.
We're going to keep watching this battle for a second, but as we keep watching, I do want to mention that Nelson Rivera was somebody we said that fell back really far to the back, and we just kind of thought, he was going to fall back and sit there. He's in the top 5 right now, which is a huge turnaround for him. And after this race is over, I'm going to have to watch his lap by lap to see where he is, because I thought for a fact he was almost outside of the top 20 at one point in this race during this green flag run, albeit. And man, while all this is going on, he's having a fantastic race, and from starting the ninth, going all the way to the back, and then coming right back up. It's a great race as we're continuing to watch this battle here for second.
Get the sense now that you watch the last 5 laps or so on that 44 machine, the lap times just aren't quite what they were when he was running behind Washington. So I have the feeling Bowie has run the good off of his tires and now might just be hanging on to second, and it could be on Carl Shedd to try and go get that place away and run down Comstock if he can. But we're coming down to 15 laps to go when they come back to the start-finish line this time by, it might just be a case of cruising and coasting to victory lane for the 42 now.
Yeah, 1.1 seconds is what he's got back to Brandon Bowie, and I think Bowie's definitely holding off the 44. I don't think I don't think it's a more of a racing with him. I think at this point it's definitely holding off with Carl Shedd, because Carl Shedd's got himself a really fast car. He's had one all day as they've been running, and you just got to think to yourself, if Carl Shedd has anything, I don't think he's going to show it right now. He's going to be patient, knowing that David Washington is 2.2 or 1 second behind him. He's 1 complete second behind him. He's got all the time in the world as long as they don't slow up too much to Washington, which could honestly be bad for a lot of reasons, but we already know what those are. But if they can start catching David Comstock, there's too many Davids here. They can start catching Comstock, which they are little by little. They might be able to do something with him as well, but I think that interval is going down too slow.
Would need to come down by about a tenth a lap, I think, in order to really make something happen. But more contact again in the battle for second. Shed and Bowie got into one another that last time by, and as they crossed the stripe, that just gave David Comstock 2/10. So something tells me that the 44 and 45 might just race each other out of contention for the win unless Comstock slips up.
Yeah, I'm a little curious about that because the 44 was pretty high up the track, and I've seen the 45 go a lot lower. And I know they've been just racing so hard this entire time, but it has kind of been a, I'm going to just say how it is. It has been a Bowie versus everyone else today. Not that Bowie's been driving overly aggressively. It's just kind of been he's gotten into him, and that's just kind of, I think these have really just been racing deals. The last one I think can be debated, but there's been a lot of hard racing. This is a track that you just can't, pass someone off based off of raw speed. You've got to get a run. You've got to get in the corner just right. You've got to get off the corner. You've got to get in the throttle just right as well. And if not all those things line up, you've at least got maybe a little bit of wiggle room to maybe lean on them. And we've seen that. We've seen that a number of times. And, and I think with 10 laps to go coming this next time by, there's going to be, I think, a lot of words that we talked about, just, I think, based on racing. I don't think we've seen anything malicious, but that being said, the gap between Shed and Bowie has, gotten a little bit bigger, but they have been really close this whole time. I mean, it can still change, but the one thing that's not changing is that David Comstock is up front, and he has 10 laps to go to win this race.
Really beginning to hammer it down now and open up this gap. Now up to 1.3 seconds over Bowie and Shed. Bobbles a little bit around the exit of turn 2, but for the most part, this looks like it's David Comstock's race to lose.
And right now, it looks like Carl Shed, he's still in the cusp of getting that number 44. But look at the battle behind them. David Washington, he's getting pressured by the 7 of Nelson Rivera. And then behind them, looks like you've got Lionel Callisto, who actually is a lap down. And he's a playoff contender as well. So that's also something to think about. I did not know that the 97 got a lap down at this point in the race. So he's in 19th. That could be a big issue later on in the playoffs. So right now, the 7 to Nelson Rivera, he's going to try and have to find a way to get around Washington. But at the same time, he's not a playoff driver, so there may be a little bit of reservation with Nelson, knowing that he doesn't want to have an issue with 98. As a battle for second going on right now, looks like Carl Shed's still on the inside of the 44. Battle's still brewing up. It just keeps going off and on. I don't know when it's going to end.
To make it clear, Rivera gave a very clear signal to pass right to everybody up near that second group of cars with Washington and company. So don't think he wants to play too much, or yes, I don't think he wants to play too much into the hands of how this race shapes up amongst the top 5 drivers. Not that it would matter much at this point anyway. Washington's fallen 2 seconds behind the race leaders. So the guy who I believe will lead the most laps tonight definitely won't be coming home with the checkered flag unless the completely unexpected happens at the front of this field.
And it's getting closer and closer to 5 laps to go, which, as we know, is kind of the point of no return. Once we get to that 5 laps to go, this is the only lap, the one that we're about to be on. It's the only lap that we can have a caution flag and have a restart with 1 lap to go. 1 lap dash to the finish. And I've got to say, this lead has kept going down between Comstock and Bowie, but with the fact that Carl Shed keeps battling them, they're not able to really go get it. I would say that if Carl Shed wasn't in the picture, that Bowie might have been able to catch Comstock, but the other way around, if Bowie wasn't there, would Carl Shed be able to catch Comstock? Would he be able to muscle his way up there on his own? I'd say probably both in both cases, but right now they're just fighting too hard to try and get that lead, and there's 2/10 off of David Comstock right there. So they've got the speed. I'm just curious, if they don't fight until the last lap, do they have a chance at him?
If they don't fight that, I think, is the big question. You see Shed now going underneath Bowie, trying to really drive it in deep and make something happen, and he actually made it stick for a moment, but it wasn't enough. Interval that last time by. Now back up to a second. That might be it there because you only have a handful of laps left to go for Comstock to come and win this race.
He's still got himself a long ways to go. It's not over till it's over, as we always say, you know, don't ever let up. Don't change anything you've got into your approach because, you know, it could change. Anything could change. You know, he's still got a lap car in front of him, and it's going to be Jason Cameron. He's still a ways away, but still could mean a little bit here with 3 laps to go. And Brandon Bowie's still stabilizing around 1 second behind, and Carl Shed also just kind of stabilizing behind. I think if anything's going to be happening between these battles, the battle for second and then the battle for fourth behind them, I think it's just going to happen in those last closing laps, maybe the last lap or the lap before. I can't imagine that it's going to happen just right now, but it is going to be 2 laps to go when they cross the stripe this time by, so get 2 to go right now.
The double popsicle 6, as our friend Jacob Steelman would call them, for David Comstock, who I think has just done a really nice job all race of taking advantage of opportunities. He was the one who was the main beneficiary when they got into each other right before the first round of pit stops, and then was just able to run down David Washington and has pretty much controlled this race ever since, and will come out of turn 4 here to get the white flag and come collect a victory at New Hampshire if he can keep it clean for the last mile.
And if he does make it the rest of the way back, he will tie David Washington for the most wins of the season. We'll just have to see. He's going to come down the back straightaway one last time. Battles ensue behind him, but it's the number 42 we'll be talking about right now.
David Comstock through 3, through 4, clean. Ditch efforts are made in the last sense, and the last ditch efforts come from Carl Schiff, but they won't be enough to get second, and they won't be enough to catch David Comstock, who wins in the playoffs in the 2017 RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking. Hunt for the championship. His first win in the round of 16. He will march on into the round of 12 automatically. And then it was Bowie who hung on for second. Shed was third. Washington came home fourth. Rivera rounds out the top 5 after falling so far back of the field to start this race off.
Yeah, what a good finish between those guys. And there was so many exciting battles through it. I think if you're in the car, it maybe wasn't as exciting as it was for us in the booth. But man, some of that racing was absolutely exciting, James. And that was a lot of fun to watch some of the really exciting battles out there. I mean, we had another really fantastic run of green flag racing tonight as well. So that's something I think these drivers will be really happy to see. And despite the long green flag runs, we had really good racing as well. And I tell you what, the last few races we've had a lot of good racing with these long green flag runs. And you know, lately it's I think sometimes you get those times where you get a lot of caution races in a row, then you get a lot of green flag races in a row. And right now we're on that lot of green flag racing in a row, and it's having some really good it's a really good product right now.
A vibrant series this one is, as David Comstock burns it down here, Tokyo Drift style, in turn 4. In the meantime, though, we'll take a quick commercial break here and then come back on the other side of it to give you your full field rundown and talk to your top 3 finishers. You're watching coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
When I was 16 years old, I was working in a Goodyear tire store, and my boss actually built an old dirt car, street stock Monte Carlo. Went with him one night, fell in love with it. It was a hell of a race, hell of a party, and a big fight afterwards. I was like, this is it. This is it for me. It wasn't long after that, I was driving an old 78 Camaro out of the weeds at that guy's farm. We pulled that thing out and made a race car out of it, and away we went. You know, I think a driver has more to do with the equation going back and racing dirt, whether it's a modified, a late model. You can do more with the race car. You know, the harder you drive it, a lot of times, the better it goes. You can crawl up on that wheel and feel like you made the difference at the end of the night. Asphalt car, you can't overdrive them. Well, that was the first thing that I had to learn right off the bat is, oh my gosh, I've got to discipline myself, not overdrive this thing, and that's how you get the most out of it. Truth be told, communicating the right information to your crew and your crew chief so they can do their job and make their appropriate adjustments for you to go faster and do your job is probably 90% of the game in our world. I've always loved late models. You know, my dream was to be a late model driver driving for a living across the country like Daryl and Don do that drive for me. I mean, that was, truth be told, that was my dream, you know. I always wanted a semi. I always wanted a stacker trailer with 2 hot rods in it and let's go racing. Let's take off with your buddies and go race and chase that dream. Never in a million years did I think it would turn into a Cup Series, and I actually have an opportunity to own 2 you know, dirt late model teams. When you think of iRacing, you don't think of a video game. It's not. It's way above and beyond any of that. You know, dirt racing changes so much. The track changes so much. Being able to capture that, to, you know, experience all those details that surround dirt racing and make dirt racing what it is what makes iRacing so cool, because they did nail all of that. I knew when they came to our shop and scanned cars and went to the detail of getting that car right, I knew that it was going to be over the top, because it blew my mind just the work that went into making sure the car itself was legit. This sport has been around a long time. The competition can't be replaced, and that's what brings people back to the racetrack week in and week out.
Welcome back to LSRTV's coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking, where we have just completed the 27th race of the 2017 season from New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and David Comstock has come away as your race winner. And now that we have tonight's action completed, it's time to take a look at your full field rundown, which is brought to you tonight by Hippie's Paint Shop. Hippie's Paint Shop has over 5 years of experience providing top quality custom paint schemes for all iRacing vehicles at a low price. Because after all, at Hippie's Paint Shop, the cost isn't high, just the painting. David Comstock comes away with yet another win in the 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series season, either his 5th or 6th. One of those two numbers is correct. I just can't quite remember off the top of my slightly cough-drilled head. So We'll get a proper number here in just a moment. But in the meantime, we can tell you that Brandon Bowie did finish in second tonight. Carl Shedd was third. David Washington led a very significant chunk of this race, but just did not have the long run speed to keep that 98 car up front. Was only able to finish fourth at the end of the day. Nelson Rivera finished in fifth once we completed 135 laps. Good run for Nick Silver, too. We barely talked about him all night, and he was able to drive up 10 positions to go from 16th on the grid to 6th at the checkered flag. So strong run for that number 24 machine. Andrew Farinars was up in the top 5 for a good chunk of the race and then fell to 7th right at the end. Dwayne Vincent started 8th, finished 8th. Pretty solid day for the 13 machine. Daniel Eberhardt drove up 28 to 9th, so plus, I believe, 19 positions for the number 90 car. Not quite the win that he wanted, though, or will need in all likelihood to advance to Dover. And then Seth DeMerchant in the 57 machine finished 10th.
Finishing out in the 11th position with Anthony Navarro with that alternate pit strategy, which just did not add up today. Justin Lisenby, he finishes in the 12th position. Trevor Roppolo finishes in the 13th position, and Shane Ewing finishes 14th with Corey Wolf right behind him at 15th. Doug Roth finishes in the 16th position. Raw Cato, he'll finish 17th. Then you've got Sean Casto finishing 18th position, last on the lead lap. Then you've got a long list of one lap down drivers, which would include Lionel Plaistow in 19th and Eric Stanford in 20th.
Sean Bounty, Rod Flagg, and Jason Cameron Jr. were the other 3 cars who finished this race one lap down in 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Dylan Jones, I believe, was the first car out of the race. It didn't really have to do much of anything after his win last week at Chicagoland, so he took it easy, finishes 24th tonight. And then your actual retirements, proper Gabe Wood heads that list up in 25th. Tanner Tallarico finished 26th. They both were part of the very early wreck that caused the only major caution of this event. Randy Yoakum finishes in 27th, Douglas Wyatt 28th, and then the main car to start off that first caution, Joseph LaPlaca, finishes in 29th this evening. And that will round out your full field rundown presented to you tonight by Hippie's Paint Shop. So, from our gigantic leaderboard of stats, we turn to the man who I can now confirm has 5 victories in the Full Throttle Cup Series for 2017, and that now does officially take him P1 above everybody else save for David Washington, I believe. But we'll go ahead and bring him in from Victory Lane, where he's hanging out with his good friend Larry the Lobster and his big giant claws. But David Comstock, you get it done today, and I think amongst the top 5 throughout the majority of that race between you and Bowie and Shedd and Washington and Freenars and company, that may have been some of the toughest racing we've seen all season long, because all 5 and 6 of you were just battling it out constantly through a good chunk of the race. But you seemed like you were on a bit of an island within all of that, especially on that first go-round of bumping and running right before that first round of pit stops. So we'll take us back midway through the race. Talk about how you made it through all that and got to the lead to begin with.
Well, I burnt my tires up, so I was struggling from that a bit, running through to begin with, and so fell back a bit, let a couple guys go, and I got to battling for the lead and saw that people were moving each other, and I got to the point where they had to check up for Bowie, which he made a really good save, but it caused them to lose so much momentum. I got a huge run. I was far enough back where I didn't have to slow down. So another guy named Larry, I just took his advice and I just sent it.
Pretty good advice if we look back in the history of motorsports. So you took that on, and then it seemed like the second run was just a lot easier for you. And especially the way that car came in on the second run of this race. You had some speed in the first half, but it wasn't quite leader speed. But that second run of the race, you really found your groove. I'd say it was about lap 85, 90 that things started clicking and you just ran down Washington. So was that more of a setup thing, or did you just kind of figure out the line as the track developed over the course of the race?
I really just figured out what I needed to do, which is not running so hard to begin with. I mean, after the pit stop, Washington got to me and I held him up just a little bit, but once he gave me a little bit of bumper, and at that point, when he got another run on me, I just let him go, and I just saved my stuff and learned from that first green flag run in order to help me to finish out the end of the race there. And so once about, I think it was 40 to go, or 30 to go or so, I just started running it a little bit harder, trying to get him back down, and ran him down and was able to just get it done.
5 wins now. Impressive by every measure. You look back at this one in comparison to the other 4. Where does it sit in terms of this season, in terms of the sort of prestige and the value that you place upon it for the work that you had to put in tonight?
I'd say, yeah, this is one of the more tougher races that I've been able to win this season, and it's really good that we're peaking right now because it's playoff time. So we're hitting good strides, and we hope to carry this momentum all the way throughout the rest of the season.
I suppose to some degree next week will be a bit of a free pass with Dover, but I know you'll want to come in and do well and carry the momentum into the round of 12. But I also know you have a lot of people that help you make it up through the entirety of the Full Throttle Cup Series season. So go ahead and give your shout outs, your thank yous to all the sponsors and the people that make it possible for you and the number 42 team.
I'd like to thank everybody at Aftermath Motorsports for allowing me to come over here and run the league here in Real Sim Racing, and you guys for broadcasting every single week on LSRTV, and sponsoring the car, Monster Energy, Gary Mercer Trucking, Brendan Mercer support every week, JT Plax Plus, and Jonathan support every single week. Go to his website this week and use code David3 upon checkout when you're purchasing, and you'll get, I believe it's 25% off. And then Bandcan, JD Laird and JDR Graphics, keeping my car painted every single week, keeping it clean. All the fans and friends and support. One of my biggest fans, Blake Matthews, thanks to him. Again, and also everybody in the league these past few weeks. Everybody should give a pat on the back to each other, because a lot of green flag racing, and it's been enjoyable to be here every single week because of that. So thank you to all you guys too.
Been a lot of fun to watch it, and I know Mr. Heitzman will be having a pretty fun time with all the publicity that JT Pax and Bandcan are getting here in the last few weeks too. So thanks for the time, David. We'll go ahead and let you go and look forward to seeing you next week at Dover.
Appreciate it, guys. See you next week.
There's race winner David Comstock, number 5 in the 2017 season for him. And I will pass it over to Austin Coop now, who has caught up with the second place man tonight, what I believe is a season's best finish for him, the number 44 of Brandon Bowie.
Yeah, I'm here with Brandon Bowie. Brandon, you started in the second position today. That's where you'll land, and we've got to be honest with you. It was a very eventful one for you, so I think we'll just put it straight into your court and tell us how your race went.
Well, it went, I guess, solidly. My goal was just to finish top 5. A couple times I was told I was one of the fastest cars on the track, which was good to finally see that I'm just as quick as the rest of the guys in there, because Comstock and Washington and even Carl Shedd, they were all fast, and I was just doing my best to hold on to the best finish that I could get.
Now, obviously, I think we've got to talk about the contact that happened between you and the 98. It not only because it happened multiple times during one lap, but because it happened later on in the race. Would you put that as hard racing for the last one, or was that a little bit of payback for you on the 98, though, or going at the very end of the race?
No payback at all. I'm not that type of driver. I don't intentionally go out and try to wreck people or anything like that. I honestly would have to go back and watch the replay. I've been told, different things from different people that looks like I did turn into them. Then somebody said it doesn't look like it. Looks like maybe just a racing deal. So I apologize to him. Like I said, I had to go back and watch the replay and see what happened. If it was my fault, truly do apologize. It was not intentional at all.
Well, going forward, you're in a good seat going into the final race of this first round, and we've also got a little bit of a statistic for you. I know you're seeing it read up for you, but it's your 7 top 10 in a row, and your 5th top 5 in a row. It's been a very consistent run for you as of late. And going into the championship, we talk about momentum with a lot of drivers, sometimes winning like Dylan Jones. But you're at the position where you're just getting really good, decent finishes. And I think somebody in the NASCAR series said it yesterday. I think it was I can't remember who said it, but they said if you keep in top 5s, you'll make it to Homestead. Do you feel the same?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I think it was Larson.
Yes,
I
it
believe
was.
who
Yeah.
said it. But yeah, that's kind of how I kind of felt. Lately, if I just continue to click off the top 5s and the top 10s, try to stay out of trouble, and just finish the race, we can make it to Homestead. I mean, that's the goal. Whether I win the championship or not, the only person that knows is the man upstairs. But to be able to race against 3 of the best guys in the league, that would be awesome to be able to do that as a rookie.
Well, before we let you go, as always, we will let you have a chance to tell us who makes it happen for you, and if you've got any shout-outs and sponsors who make it happen for you on the number 44 Ford.
Gotta thank Last Car Loaded Motorsports. Gotta thank Lodestar, definitely. Family for giving me the time to be able to test and race and run with you guys, and gotta thank you guys as well, because you guys always put on a great broadcast. Always go back and watch it later on just to see if I can do anything better or learn from my mistakes. And gotta thank the man above, because he allows me to continue to be able to keep racing.
There you have it, Brandon Bowie getting the 2nd position, and thank you for giving us a moment of your time to, kind of clear it up, because to be honest, from upstairs, sometimes we don't know what goes on down there. So thank you for giving us, what on your perspective of things.
No problem. Thanks.
There you have it. There he is, and we'll get the next driver who finishes in 3rd. That'll be Carl Shedd, finishes in 3rd place. That's where he started as well. Carl, another top 3 or another top 5 finish. Getting a lot of these lately. It's your 4th top 5 in the last 5 races here for you.
Yeah, man, I like these green flag runs. The more of those we can get, the more top 5s I think I'll be able to get.
Yeah, I do think you finished 3rd last week. As well. Either that or it was 2nd. No, you finished 2nd last week. So 2 top 3s in a row. So you basically have the best average finish of any driver right now in the playoffs. How does that feel for you?
It feels like a great change after the summer. So we just try not to think about it too much, and jinx myself, and look forward to Dover, a track that I'm significantly, better. I'm sure everybody feels the same way. As you know, from racing out here with this New Hampshire is not an easy track to run. Even when you're fast, you feel slow, and it's just a beating to get through a race here. So to finish at a place that I feel so poor at and stay top 5, it's just looking forward to next week and moving past it.
Now, since it did go so long on the green flag runs, I want to ask about how the track changed. I didn't get a chance to talk to Bowie about it, but talk to us about how this track changed over the course of the green flag run, because it seemed that you guys actually really didn't move the line very much, but it seemed like your approach to it definitely changed over the entire run.
Yeah, early on it was that 2nd lane to 2.5 lanes up. The front tires wanted to push a lot before the rubber built up. And then about 20 or 30 laps into the race, you could run. I was running like trying to straddle, at least it felt like that way, straddling that 2nd dotted line up there. Felt like you could power off. And then as the track continued to rubber up towards the end of the race, you could really feel it on the right rears exiting the corner. Your car would hook up in the center quick and start to aim you towards exit. It would tempt you into putting that right foot on the throttle a little early. And was really loosening up the rear. So it was a challenge. It was different. You could definitely feel it changing. And there was a moment there in the last lap or two, I got desperate and tried the yellow line, and it stuck once. But I don't think I could have ever maybe lost a second or two in the past.
Right now, you're in a good position going into the final race of the first round. You going into Dover, you said it was a difficult track. Is there going to be any kind of different preparation for this race, or is it going to be kind of business as always for you guys in the coming days to next week?
I think it's going to be business as always. Like I mentioned last week, I like to just take each race as it comes and run with the speed you've got. You spend the week kind of working on it and seeing if you can prepare and get rid of the kinks. And come race night, if you realize you have a top 5 car, then make sure you get a top 5. Don't overdrive it. And if you're top 7, 8, 10, you just like I said, you take your place, you take your lumps, and move on. So I think we'll just be trying to gauge where we're at, improve, and then take it easy and let it come to us.
Well, there you have it. Number 45, Carl Shed, finishes where he started in the 3rd position. Now, as you know, and as you did last week, give us a shout out to sponsors, to anyone who makes it happen on the machine.
10-4, we got Andy's Lobster Rolls sponsoring the race today and on the car, and it's been a good luck charm for me. So thanks to Andy Kessler. And James Ross, Power Tech, is also on the car. He's a great friend, was a spotter last season. So hopefully he's getting a chance to take a look at us tonight. And then, of course, all my teammates, David, Dylan, Trevor, Ross, Andrew, Daniel, Gio, and our new teammate, Eric. It's been fun. We put in a lot of work together. So and to you guys for putting on a fantastic league and a great show every week. It's we miss you out here on the track, but it's good to hear you up there.
Well, perhaps I'll meet you guys next week. You know how I like the short track, so I'll maybe see you there. But it's all about you right now, and we'll see you next week on the track and back in the Andy's 45, or Chef Andy's 45 machine. And until then, good luck for this coming week.
Thank you, buddy. Have a good night, guys.
There you have it, 45 of Carl Shed. And, well, that does wrap us up. The race went a very long time with green flag laps here tonight, James, and I'll say that 135 laps didn't. It felt like it went by so quick, and the action was so intense the whole time. That's 2 in a row that we've had. I don't want to jinx it, but man, these were some really good races that we've had to open up the playoffs.
We go from 2 quick races to a track that races very quick, no matter where you are on it, because it has so much banking. Dover is next on the schedule, and not only is it a quick track, but it's also a track where if you talk about having to watch corner exit and how you get on the throttle, well, at least here, if you get on the throttle too early and spin out towards the infield, you've got a little bit of forgiveness. But if you screw it up at Dover, you're headed directly for the inside retaining wall somewhere. So margins for error really, really come down and shrink next week, when we also eliminate the first 4 drivers from the playoffs. So if you're not locked in, probably want to be on your toes, because I'd say in most cases you're not necessarily safe yet.
Yeah, we know how Dover is a self-cleaning track, and with the drivers who are in the playoffs, they do a lot of practice between now and the races. And to be honest, I think it was the Sonoma week, where just after the race had finished, I remember getting myself into a practice session, and all the top drivers of this league were already there, already ahead of a lot of the other drivers. So, when they say business as usual, sometimes business happens as soon as the interview is done. So definitely a really cool deal to see that these guys really want to win. It's not the fact that they want to go and put on a good show. They want to win this thing. This is a really cool deal for them to go out and try and win a championship, which is a coveted one. There's been some really good champions out there of late. You've got Scott Eckrich, who's actually watching from afar, and then you've got David Comstock in the race. You've got some really big talent out there that they want to be a part of. So this is a really good start for these guys, and I can't wait to see how the end of this round finishes out. Maybe I'll be behind the wheel, get the team together, and for the rest of the playoffs, I definitely see this being really, really fun and maybe one of the best ever.
And since we've got them, we'll go ahead and give you the point standings as they currently sit going into next week's round at Dover. David Comstock is your points leader. David Washington sits behind him, 6 points back of the lead. Dylan Jones is 3rd in points technically, but he does have that race win, so he will be in the round of 12 no matter what. Brandon Bowie and Carl Shed both tied at 35 points back for 4th. 6th in points is Nick Silver. He's 41 points back of the race lead. 1 point behind Silver is Andrew Farinars in 7th. Dwayne Vincent is 49 points back in 8th. Trevor Roppolo, 54 points back in 9th. 59 points back is Lionel Calisto in 10th. 11th is Ross Cato, who is 64 points back. And then Daniel Everhart is currently the man on the bubble in 12th, 66 points back of the leader. Guys, outside the playoffs as they stand, Shane Ewing currently runs in 13th. He is 3 points back of Everhart. 5 points back of Everhart is Ashton Crowder, who did not run tonight. Sean Casto is 8 points back of Daniel Everhart, and then Joseph Tice way off the bubble. I believe 39 points back if my memory is correct. So Tice will need to win in order to get into the round of 12 next week. But that is next week. We have run out of time for tonight, so we will invite you to come back for round 28 of the 2017 RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking Season, which will be right here on LSRTV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch.tv, 9:35 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for our next race in the season. At this point, we will conclude tonight's coverage of our RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series coverage here on LSRTV. So for my colleague up in the booth, Austin Coop, for the lovely and talented producer Cisco Scaramuza pushing all the buttons down below us, for Kyle Barnes and Doug Atkinson at Real Sim Racing, handling all of our administrative duties, and for Laura Lawson, DJ Lyon, and Evan Pasoko at LSRTV. I am James Pike saying thank you for watching tonight's broadcast, and we will see you from the capital of the First State next Monday night.